So Valentine, Edwin needs a good power system in his house, and he could certainly make do with a stable liquid connection in his house too. So which piece that we have out of those two, so we can make corrective decisions.
I think that is needed.
Good. So I could start with this. So there is a conversation. You mentioned the Zola partnership. Zola is a player that we've been working with for quite a while. They've got a very interesting technology that we would like to utilize to really address the challenge of power and storage, particularly within the residential area. Now, our CNI, as I said, really starts at 50 kilowatt upwards, but our residential systems is up to 10 kilowatt, and anything from a 2 kilowatt to 10 kilowatt, which is a home in Mfakos, can be powered with a 2 kilowatt and can look after most of the critical loads. Our view and our attitude towards energy in Africa needs to change. So in Zimbabwe too, there are certain things that has become a new reality. So for instance, it's great to you should start looking at using gas for your stoves because it helps reduce the cost of energy, especially if we have to come in and reconfigure your energy mix in your home. So a solar system, we call it the Infinity system, is scalable from as little as 2.7 kilowatt, which can power easily and carry what we call the critical load of a Mfakos home. So what is the critical load in Mfakos? If I'm living in Mfakos, I want to make sure that my internet can work. I want to make sure that my phones can be charged, my lights are working, my kids can study, and I can actually work from home. That 2.7 kilowatt system can deliver that. And it comes in with some small PV to make sure that home can be taken care of. But I can move from Mfakos all the way to Mount Pleasant to Borodale with that same Infinity system by just adding more batteries and more inverter systems on top of it, all the way to a 15 kilowatt home, which could be a high-end home or actually what we call a home office. So most NGOs will be able to be taken care of by such a solution. So we've gotten into this partnership with Zola Infinite to have an exclusive distributorship across the continent. Now, what do we like about them? We don't try to be all things to all people. There are technologies out there that are tried and tested. So we work with your tier one technologies, whether it's solar panels, whether it's Tesla Powerwall. As you know, we have rolled out the largest Tesla Powerwall deployment in telecom towers in Africa. Now, I always get into trouble with that statement, but until I'm disproven, we've got the largest rollout of Tesla Powerwalls in Africa today onto our telecom infrastructure, right? So that allows us to work with the tier one technologies. So we don't have too many unknown variables in our mix. So when we show up at your house and we're deploying a solution, no worries, you don't have to open the bonnet to see if it works. It will work. When we deploy a megawatt for business, it works. And so we work, Zola Infinity is a Silicon Valley-based business, and they are actually an offshoot. We're working with Elon Musk at the very early stage. So he also has got some interest in there, and his cousins have some interest in there. So these are people that have cut their teeth, they paid their school fees, and they actually know how the technologies work. So we work with them. And we deliberately choose such as our technology partners so that, because remember, in some cases, we actually make the investment ourselves. We keep the systems on our books for the next 15 years. So I cannot afford a cheap Chinese battery for that matter. Nothing wrong with the Chinese. Most of our batteries come from China, but there are some cheap ones, and we can't give you a cheap Chinese battery. Unfortunately, we'll give you the more robust Chinese battery that can last the next 15 years. And we've got to put our name on it, and we've got to guarantee that it can generate electrons. So that's the key in the partnership with Zola. Now, onto the EVs, you saw recently that we know that there's been a challenge in a number of African countries, Zimbabwe included, when it comes to foreign currency, availability to access to fuel, etc., etc. So one of the new opportunities that emerging globally is that the fossil fuel cars, the way we know them to date, are becoming a thing of the past. A lot of your motor vehicle companies out there have made the public statement that they are phasing out their fossil fuel vehicles. And so we can either wait until then, we become a dumping ground, or we can be a lot more forward-looking and progressive. So we've got a sister company, Via, that has bought a few electric vehicles in Zimbabwe, and they needed an electric charging platform, and we've started rolling out that electric charging platform in the country. And it's working on our solar systems. It needs our power systems. So it's nicely integrated and fits very well into our core business model.
Ah, great. And so what about rollout, the rollout timeline for charging stations in Zimbabwe? I mean, right now we are aware of 3 of EV charging stations that are available, I think, in the Masasa area. There was also mentioned that a number of them would also be deployed across the country. Any rollout as yet of when those will be available?
So it's a progressive process. We have been working with the regulator. We have actually facilitated to ensure that the regulator gets the technology, both the vehicle and the charging platform, so that they can be comfortable. The desire, according to the regulator, is that they would like to make electric vehicles duty-free and all these kind of niceties that makes an electric vehicle much more cheaper and much more affordable in Zimbabwe. We have actually deployed a system with a car with the regulator with that in mind, to facilitate that they can be made duty-free. And if you wanted a Nissan, you will probably be able to find a much cheaper Nissan, which is electric, than a normal fossil fuel Nissan, today petrol-powered Nissan. Secondly, our Nissan should be able to drive across the entire country without you having to worry about the charging platforms. So the rollout will also follow the day in a life of my Nissan driver. He spends a lot of his days in Harare, so he has got up to 200 kilometers of charge at any one point in time, which means he can do most of his routines the entire week, and he'll be able to have a place to charge. We are then going to follow the main cities. So he should be able to leave Harare and go to Mtare and back. He should be able to leave Harare and go to Bulawayo and back, and even proceed to Victoria Falls and be able to charge. So we're following that. The cars are becoming a lot more advanced, a lot more robust, the storage system a lot more robust. So we're now working with that as a framework. Now, part of the conversation is also starting to enable the actual availability of motor vehicles into the country, because it's a chicken and egg situation. I don't need the charging platform if I don't have the cars. But you can't bring the cars if you don't have the charging platform. So we've taken the first leap of faith, and we're now working with a number of financial institutions to say, hey, start opening. You've got a lot of money. There's a lot of money out there in the world which is meant to really enable climate initiatives like this one. So we are challenging the banking community in Zimbabwe to start offering loans, for instance, to a number of corporates and individuals that are looking to bring in electric vehicles, because the infrastructure is going to be there. So just the same way we rolled out telecom towers, we're also going to just follow the same with the EV charging platforms. So as the demand increases, we'll also increase the penetration of the charging platforms. But at the moment, we're seeing a lot of traction. There's a lot of excitement, both locally among the clients, but also even among the investment community. Some of the banks are beginning to warm up to the idea of actually extending facilities towards electric vehicle cars. We are also encouraging entrepreneurs to come on board. You can go out there and start trading all this cool stuff, bitcoins, derivatives, or you can just bring in electric vehicles and sell it to the market. You could actually make a very decent margin out of it. I shouldn't have said that.
Oh, impressive. So I like how you mentioned framework there in terms of the legislation around EVs, but also I was curious about the part when it comes to compatibility is there a list of vehicle models or a list of actual specific vehicles that you will be supporting on your charging stations?
Okay, so my learned friends would tell you the actual name of the platform. The ordinary man like me tells you that there are only probably 2 charging platforms that exist today, and we intend to support both charging platforms. So I could conceivably say with a lot of comfort and confidence that bring any electric vehicle, we'll be able to find a charger for it. So there is a dual charging platform that exists right now. I think the one is called CS3. Most of the vehicles are compatible. I think just like the way they've rolled out most of your plugs, these things work. So most of the charging platforms come with 2 platforms, so you can charge most of the vehicle within those 2 platforms. Almost 80% of the vehicles are covered to 90%. So you could obviously just double check with the team if you need any more information. But yeah, I'm very comfortable with we are now building a more universal platform for charging. As you can imagine, the likes of China have gone very aggressively on electric vehicles. The likes of Japan have gone aggressively on vehicles, and they are basically standardizing it. Just like, the way you put your fuel is also quite standard now. So that is where the technology is going, but there's also room for adapting for some of the vehicles. But the ones we've seen to date are covered by the technology that we've brought on board.